So as you guys know, I'm always down to try a new product, and today's video hits very close to home for me. So if you're not an OG fan, you might not remember my background, but I played football for 10 years, and of that time, I was a lineman the entire time. And the majority of that time, there was one recurring thing that happened over and over again, except it started to get worse as the guys got heavier. I'm talking, of course, about getting my feet stepped on. And yeah, this can still happen to anyone on the field, skinny guys included, but I know this video especially hits home for linemen. Now looking back, it's a little fuzzy, but I remember I think it's 6 toenails off my right big toe, and then 2 toenails off the toe next to it. I don't know why it's like literally always that right big toe for me. I don't know why that was, how I stepped, maybe it's related, maybe it's coincidence, but that right big toe took some damage. The part about this was it never once happened in the game. It was always teammates in practice, always practice. Today's video solves that. So Prolific Sports Labs is kind of this new company on the block that really prides themselves on making laboratory grade sports equipment, and this is their first product, the NXT Footguard 2.0. So it's the second version of their first product, but you get what I'm saying. And this is it here. It's pretty dirty because I've been putting it through the paces, but it's actually a very simple product. Essentially all it is it's a plate that goes on the top of your foot that has a little hinge mechanism in it to work with your foot, a couple straps that go around it, and that way if any cleat steps on top of your foot, you're protected. Full disclosure, Prolific Sports Labs is going to be running ads on our channel over like the next 6 months or so. And anytime a company wants to run ads on our channel, we always give a review of that product first. That way we know exactly who we're getting into business with. We trust the product before we promote it to you guys. And that way also, if you do like the product from the ads, there's a place where you can learn a lot more in-depth information about it. The review is not paid for. This is fully honest feedback of their product, and obviously I like it. Now to start, we have the unboxing, and it's a pretty quick process. Now in the package, you essentially get 2 things. You get some instructions about how to put it on, how to hand wash it, all the different technologies like the D3O foam, and then you get your pair of foot guards. You pick them up in either black or white, and then they have sizing as well. All of my cleats are a 12.5, and based on their sizing chart, I picked up a size large. And if you look at them, you can see they are kind of curved to match your toe and your foot. So you can always see that they have a left and a right on the inside to remind you which one you're supposed to be using. Now, the first thing I did is took it apart, and essentially there's 3 main pieces to it. So the first thing is there's going to be these like 2 kind of really stretchy, heavy duty straps. One of them goes underneath your arch, and then the other one wraps around your heel, and then they both lock on the inside of your foot. So that's how, as you know, left and right straps go on the inside. The actual body of the foot guard is essentially like this big sleeve where the plate slips in the back. And then on the back side of that, there's also a bunch of like a silicone kind of texture to keep this thing kind of locked on the top of your foot. And then if eventually your foot guards look like mine, all you gotta do is pop the plate out of it. You can hand wash this thing, let air dry, and then pop the plate back in, and you're good to go. Now looking at the foot guard, there's essentially 3 pieces to this. So you have an EVA foam, a D3O foam, and then the carbon fiber plates. The foam on the inside here is like really soft and cushiony, that feels good against the top of your foot. The foam on top of the carbon fiber plates is a little bit more dense, so it helps absorb the impact. And then you can see you have the 2 carbon fiber plates in the middle here that help absorb and kind of deflect that impact on top of your foot. And there's also a little gap in the middle here, and that way you can see it allows it to kind of bend with your foot as well as you're running. So that's how it works, but does it work? So I went out and tested this thing with 3 different cleats. I tested it with the Under Armour Blur Smoke Suede from this year, one of my favorite mid-top cleats of all time, the Nike Alpha Menace Pro 2s from a couple years ago, and the biggest lineman cleat I could think of, the Adidas Nasty from last year. Now as far as the absorption of impact goes when you're getting stepped on, it works exactly like you expect it. You barely feel anything. Today's video is brought to you by ZoomBang. Now, if you're familiar with our channel, you've already seen ZoomBang on a bunch of our videos and some of the guys we've featured, like Lamar Jackson, the 2-time MVP. Now, aside from the Ravens, ZoomBang is used by a ton of guys across the league, including Jason Kelsey and Najee Harris. It's essentially state-of-the-art compression gear like girdles and compression shirts that you wear underneath your pads. This added protection allows players to be fearless out on that battlefield. ZoomBang's viscoelastic polymer is soft to the touch and conforms to the exact shape of whatever it's supporting at rest. Upon impact, ZoomBang's molecules stiffen up and lock together to disperse the energy and provide maximum protection. After impact, ZoomBang transforms back to its original cushioning, supportive state. Independent testing has shown that these poly shields dissipate 90% of impact, reducing blunt force that's transferred to the body, which their competitor can only say they do 40% of. With hundreds of collisions in a single game and thousands during the course of a season, there are no shortcuts when it comes to safety. If some of the best football players in the world choose to wear ZoomBang, why shouldn't you? If you want to learn more about ZoomBang, you can check out our full video on them, or just check them out in the description down below. Again, thanks ZoomBang. Back to the video. Now, where I thought this product would fail would be the flexibility. I thought having the plate on here would just make your foot kind of immobile, but their hinge design does work surprisingly well to make sure that you can still run with this thing on your cleats. If you're wearing one cleat that has the NXT Footguard on it and one cleat that does not have it on, you can feel the difference. You can feel it on your foot because it feels like a pressure on the top of your foot from this thing. And this one obviously feels a little bit more free because it doesn't have that. Having said that though, once you have one on both feet, after you do like 1 or 2 sprints, you get used to it very quick. And I think that is important to note that with like the Blur Smoke, I did feel more pressure because it's a really thin, really lightweight cleat. cleat, so anything extra you can definitely feel, versus something like the Alpha Menace and the Nasties, you didn't really feel it as much on these cleats as you did on the lightweight ones. Now with the Alpha Menaces, the reason I chose this cleat was because it has a nasty traction blade on it. This thing can tear up your feet, and that's why I wanted to test it with this. It also has a really high cuff on it, so I wanted to see how this thing handles a higher cuff cleat, and in both things, it performed very well. You can see it goes up on your cleat. With this one, it actually starts to have a little bit of the bend to kind of work with this higher top, and even with this crazy traction plate, still held up. Now I picked the Nasty because it's the biggest, bulkiest cleat I own, and it stretched these straps to the absolute limit to see how far this thing could go. And even with the biggest cleat I own and the biggest size I own, it still fit. Overall, I'm actually pretty impressed. Now, like I said earlier, this is an honest review. Not everything about this thing is perfect yet, so there's a couple things I want to hit on how they can improve it. Number one, I think they need to come out with an XL size. I think this product is geared specifically towards linemen, and although I do wear 12.5, that is not out of the realm for linemen. They need bigger sizes available. Take, for instance, my Jordan 1s. These are a size 16, and I do not think this large version would fit on these. So an XL size, if linemen are going to be their main target audience, they need that XL. The other issue I have with it is where the foot guard ends in relation to your toes. Now, for a lot of other people, they're worried about the foot injuries that are on the bridge of your foot right here that have all the ligament damage and long-term stuff, and I get that. But like I said, my thing was toes. I always lost toenails on my feet, which means I'd like to see the foot guard extend a little bit longer to make sure it covers my toes. Now, there's kind of pros and cons of this. Now, technically, you can shimmy it down yourself. Like if I wanted, I could push it this way. The only issue is when I try and do that, the strap interferes with your front studs on here, and I'm assuming they did it on purpose so you can't shimmy it down too far, so I get that. The other challenge is from this flat-footed position, it doesn't look like it covers your toes, but when you bend your foot and you're actually running, it's very hard to do with just this. It does. So the foot guard actually has to be shorter than your toes because it's designed to slide over top of your toes when your foot is in a flex position, as in you're running forward. And if they make it longer, that means in that situation, it might get caught on the front of your foot or overhang too much. So for this purpose, it has to be designed a little bit shorter so it goes over top when you're running. Now, the only issue with that is because this is a lineman product, if you are someone like a tackle or you're doing any kind of pass set, generally that inside post foot you have is going to be more in this flat position, where your kick step foot is going to be more in that flex position. And that means that front interior foot is going to be having your toes exposed. Like I said earlier, I don't think they can solve that problem without creating another problem here with having it overhang over your toes and all those other running situations. So you kind of got to pick one and go with it. But it seems like they probably made the right call for like 95% of the situations that this thing is put in. So now you know that it does work, but do you need it? I think this is an easy buy if you have the same problem as me and you want to solve it. Now, I know they talk about this as a game and practice product. Personally, I see this as a practice product. I'd put this in the same category as a Guardian cap, as in it's something that you'll wear in practice as a little bit of a preventative measure, but on game days, you want to show off your cool cleats, you want to show off your cool helmet and face mask. You're willing to ditch this in a game so that way you can show off that stuff. But in practice, if you're worried about injury, you can throw in a Guardian cap, you can throw on the NXT Footguard 2.0, protect your feet and protect your head. And like I said earlier, I still think as far as positions go, this will be the most popular with linemen. That's all I got. It is a simple, effective product. Solves a problem I have, might solve a problem for you. Again, you'll see some ads running soon. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I'll check you next time.